Dice, yeah, ay, ay.
This conversation is about wake-up calls, the kind that sometimes don't come gently. Oscar's guest, John Borden, opens up about the life he was living before everything changed, partying hard, chasing dopamine, and slowly drifting away from himself. What started as reckless fun eventually became a mirror he couldn't ignore. Through unexpected moments, deep self-reflection, and a powerful psychedelic experience, John began rebuilding his life from the inside out. This isn't about perfection or preaching. It's about honesty, awareness, and what can happen when you finally decide to listen to yourself. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast. Now, a word from our sponsor. Oscar wrote a wonderful children's book called Logan, The Strong-Minded Little Elephant. Check it out.
Meet Logan, the strong-minded little elephant who learns that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about believing in yourself even when you're scared. In this beautifully illustrated story, friends follow Logan through a colorful jungle as he learns to calm his worries, take deep breaths, and remind himself, I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. It's a story that helps kids, and maybe a few grown-ups too, find courage, mindfulness, and strengthen their hearts. Logan, the strong-minded little elephant, by me, Oscar Luna. Available now at all major retailers and my publisher's bookstore, Milton and Hugo. Because it's up to every parent to show that their child deserves to know that strength starts from within. Thank you for joining me on another episode of FYI I Am Damaged. I have John Borden. Now, John, before psilocybin and ultras, who are you? What did an average weekend actually look like in that quote unquote wasting my life phase you described?
Dude, well, so my nickname was Johnny Bags, at least for a little bit. It wasn't too long, but for the months leading up to my revelation, my friends had come to know me as Johnny Bags because I moved to Tampa in April of 2022, and through then and November when I had my realizations that I had with psilocybin mushrooms, I was the person that always ramped the party up a notch. I always had Coke on me. I was always down to buy the first round of drinks when we went out to the bar. And so I was just the guy with the reputation of being there to have a good time. And it is so beautiful to be on the other side of that and to be able to laugh at that now.
Oh, that's good. And, thank you for, like how you said, you being an open book and all that good stuff. Because a lot of people kind of hesitate if they're not comfortable, but you look extremely comfortable talking about what you've been through. And trust me, I can relate to that. Now, you've talked about having everything on
Mhm.
paper while feeling empty and riding that cheap dopamine. Was there a specific moment when you realized if I keep going like this, that's it?
Well, man, I mean, there was just moment after moment after moment, and it was one of those things where it's like what my wake up call should have been was, so many years prior to when it actually came. And it was, kind of one of those things where you ask yourself, when are you finally going to get the message, dude? And I'm just grateful that I did when I did, because I recognized after I did receive that clarity and the ability to look at myself and say, oh my God, what am I doing? That I was one very easy mistake away from my life ending, right? Either figuratively or literally. I drove drunk so many times. I, put myself in harm's way, other people in harm's way. You never know what's laced with fentanyl or, anything like that. And so there were just so many instances where you look back and say, oh my God, I could have made the biggest mistake ever. There was one time actually, and this is kind of a crazy thing. I was at the Jersey Shore in 2020, and I'm pretty sure I was getting set up by some cops. that if I either wasn't likable and they really wanted to fuck with me, that they could have put me behind bars for selling them coke. But I think they were trying to get me to commit like a sexual assault or rape of a girl that was passed out drunk, and they were trying to egg me on to like touch her while she was sleeping, and I didn't realize or really think about what that situation might have been until the day after. But, I told him, no, no, I'm not like that. Like, I just want to go home. I'm going to get an Uber home. They asked if they could drive me home. When they did, asked if they could buy Coke from me. And so I said yes. I sold them a couple rocks. And I realized the next day, holy shit, they could have arrested me for that. They way overpaid for that, just trying to get me to sell them something. And they were trying to get me to touch this passed out girl. Like, oh my God, that could have gone so poorly. And I'm just, grateful that first off, I wasn't a total piece of shit. and that second, they must have liked me enough to not arrest me.
Wow. Now, were they
I,
actually using, or were they just cruising to like because they know people were holding and they just looking to make an
dude,
arrest or
I
something?
don't,
Or it just
yeah, well,
seems weird.
it's one of those things that I don't really know, right? And it's just a reflection on the situation because I was like on the verge of blackout drunk. It wasn't because I obviously remember the situation, but that level of drunk. And they were just dudes that I didn't really know. And you're in a house that you don't know, like the girl I didn't know. I just went back to her house with her. We, making out, whatever, go back to her house, and then she passed out drunk, and they're like, "Oh, you gonna go hit that?" Like, no, I'm not gonna go hit that. Yeah, and it's like, were they trying to set me up for something, right? And then with driving me back and offering to pay me, they paid me $100 for a small rock of coke. Uh, would that have been the setup to arrest me for selling them narcotics, right? Like, who knows? I don't really know what that situation was, but it hit me the next morning when I was thinking about it. Oh my God, those dudes could have very easily been cops, and I could be sitting in a jail cell right now. And so there's just so many like near misses like that. Whether it's situations like that or like I said, like driving drunk or doing other stupid shit that you're just really glad that the things didn't turn the wrong way.
Exactly, and I know what you mean. I've dealt with those little forks in the road, and if it could have went one way, ooh, my life would have been so different. Trust me, I get it. Now, what drew you to psilocybin in particular? Was it its research, curiosity, desperation, or something else that made you willing to cross that line in a sense of hopefully doing something better
Yeah,
for
well, so I
yourself?
mean, it was actually a complete accident that it changed my life, which is kind of crazy considering, all the positive that's coming out about psilocybin now and even who I am and how I advocate for it. Um, it was a recreational experience, and I had used psilocybin one time before, but it was when I was 18 years old, and it was the day after I quit playing baseball. So it was the worst possible day of my life to try a psychedelic for the first time, and it was a traumatic experience. It scared me away from doing mushrooms for over a decade. And I had done LSD a number of times, and MDMA, ketamine, a couple experiences with that helped to change my perspective on my relationship with alcohol and cocaine, but ended up not really producing much of a change. Again, recreational, and I can tell you that story if you want, but uh, getting back to the point. So October of 2022. I am preparing to go to the Electric Daisy Carnival, which is a 3-day EDM festival in Orlando. And I knew that I liked LSD. I knew that I liked MDMA. I tried to find those. I could not find those. But a friend had mushrooms, and I'd heard that, they're kind of similar. I'd watched some documentaries. I heard Joe Rogan talk about them positively. And so that one experience that I had that scared the shit out of me over a decade before, I was open to trying it again and saying, okay, maybe that was one bad experience. And so I tried them again in the month leading up to the festival. And in that experience, it just unlocked little key, little key, little key in ways that I didn't know that I needed, but were so emotionally powerful and so profound that it just completely shifted the premises on which my life was built and how I understood myself and the world in which I live. And so, it was about a month leading up to the concert and then 3 days at the concert, where I was experimenting with the psilocybin mushrooms, and in that time had gone from it purely being a recreational experience to it being a recreational experience, but knowing that I was going to get an extreme amount of positive out of it and just be open to what the experience was going to teach me and show me. And by the time that I got back from EDC, I looked at myself, looked at my life, and said, "Holy shit, I'm a completely different person than I was a month ago." And I know that this is going to be the jumping off point for the remainder of my life in whatever direction it goes. And I still didn't really know what that was going to look like yet, but I knew that I had an experience that I needed to tell people about. And so I started writing my book basically as soon as I got back from EDC, and it took about a year and a half to complete from that point.
Now, does it, because I did a let's say about like a year ago, I did a shaman and his wife, they run it, they do these DMT experiences. And I had a bad reaction because I have Crohn's disease, and they do that purging method first with the
Yeah.
frog venom, where they burn it into your skin and then you take it. But out of everyone that was there, I never threw up. That's supposed to make you throw up and purge. I never did that. They're looking at me like, you don't have to. I'm like, no. And then once we got to the taking the DMT, so I don't know if it's the same as like psilocybin or they're in the same family group or whatever the experience is, but it was other people were having big trips. They did the what's the one that you blow? I don't know if you ever had the full experiences. Yeah, the rape. They blow it up the nose. I passed on that because I didn't know what was happening to me. I felt a little something, but didn't get what the trip that
Hmm.
people would say. And so with that, so how you had it before and how you had it now, what was the difference? Because I've heard that you have, since you don't start it with good intent, you need to start it with good intentions, is what I heard. So the intention of you being 18, not doing baseball, and then to what it is now, what was your intention to be like on the second
Hmm.
try? Was it just, oh, I just want to feel good and go right into it? Or did you had a full good intention in the beginning
Yeah,
before
well,
taking
so
it?
I'll echo that, set and setting where your mindset going into it, and so the intention is like a huge part of that. And you're setting like physical location, the people around you, things of that nature, are paramount when it comes to psychedelic experiences, right? Because you can talk about, oh, bad trips, good trips, so on and so forth. Like, yeah, if you're not used to psychedelics and you go out and hang out in a crowd of 200,000 people and you're just not comfortable in that state of mind, the propensity for you to have a bad trip is going to be so much higher than if you're home alone on a couch with your best friend or his trusted sitter who knows what they're doing and being able to talk you through the experience. And so, like, it's such a profound difference in how the experience goes based on those two things. On that note, though, when I tried it when I was 18, the intention was my girlfriend asked me to do it with her. It was her and a few of her friends. We were in a dark, dingy basement. It was just kind of like, okay, fuck it, let's eat some mushrooms. I heard it's fun. It it was a mess, man. It was a mess. I saw a 6-year-old version of myself staring back at me in the mirror, like, John, what's wrong with you? You were supposed to be a professional baseball player. What happened? Like, fuck, man, I'm gonna go drive my car on the other side of the road. That's what happened. Yeah.
Wow, that's an experience. Like I that's the one I was looking for, and it's so I don't know. It's just maybe I need to put myself in a different space or what have you, or just maybe take a lighter dose. But it's yeah, that's something that I want to experience, and it gives you a good reflection. So it's like taking that out, it just kind of pushed you away from that, and you're like, I'm not touching this shit ever
Yeah, I mean,
again.
that's what the feeling was, like I legitimately was thinking about driving my car on the other side of the road during that experience. And, I mean, because you go from being a baseball player your whole life and to, injury ripping that away from me and needing to quit. And so it went from something where I like dreamed about being a professional baseball player my whole life up until that moment. And then literally it just gets ripped away from you. And so, when you're in that state of mind, the one of the big things with psilocybin, yeah, I don't know what your exposure level is to psychedelics in general, but ego death is a very common theme. And really, what an ego death is you temporarily and beyond temporarily forgetting who you are, forgetting the molding that has shaped you, and allowing to look at yourself and the world with an objective lens and choosing to see the world how you see it for really the first time in your life. And so that's really what happened when I had the experience in adulthood. And again, this is recreational. This is, I'm going to a concert and I want to, be in a good state of mind. And I, started experimenting with them prior to that. I got back from bar hopping on a Sunday afternoon with one of my buddies and we took 0.5 gram, which is basically like a microdose, and it just unlocked so much emotion that I had not allowed myself to process from years prior of, relationship related trauma. And in that, I finally got over a girlfriend that we had broken up 3 years prior, that I just, that you do the guy thing, you break up and you go fuck a whole bunch of girls and you drink and do coke and you never talk about it or think about it again. And when I ate mushrooms, it forced me to think about it. It's like, nope, you can't hide. It's right here.
Actually, it's I don't get the same reaction because now I've realized that because we got the hookup through a friend where we order someone who makes it out in California, Dr. Sparkle,
So,
and we get that.
mm,
Yeah, so it's mixed in with chocolate, it sells the chocolate bars and everything, and it's great. The only thing I feel, because I haven't taken too much of it, but I just feel a little bit
mhm,
elated. I feel not weighed down by any sort of anxiousness or anything like that. Don't tell me a fucking joke because I'm gonna turn like red like a tomato because I'm just gonna be laughing. I took it. I was having dinner with the family, and it's just one of my kids told a joke, and I just turned red. And everybody was having a good time and, just went to bed and slept it off. But to have that sort of revelation or talking to a younger version of yourself or something else, whatever it
mhm,
may be, I haven't had that yet. I haven't. So I don't know if I'll continue to go the mushroom route or find some place to do, like certified DMT or just have that. Not that I want to experience it. I do want to shed light on my ego and everything else that's underneath the surface to break through because I've done it without um any sort of substances. I was able to release one of my biggest, traumas with sexual assault and everything like that as a young child. So doing that, it made me a different person in a sense of I find my strength through vulnerability. Talking with people and they're like, "Wait, you say that so casually?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it took me years to get here. It took me years to face that and to not fear of mentioning that to somebody out of weakness or anything like that." So that is a good step in a nice direction, and I realize who I am, or getting to know who I am. And I'm thinking in that sort of like, I really would love to go through what you went through, and then you kind of see yourself. You see yourself, you see what things you've been avoiding and face it in a steady
mhm.
sense, So, that's definitely one thing I want to
Yeah,
try.
I would
Now,
look at the dosage that you're
in your
doing, because there isn't like a lethal dose or any a size dose of psilocybin that's going to produce any real type of adverse effects from like a physical standpoint. It's good to again make sure that you're in a controlled setting, that you are comfortable, and that you don't have anything immediately stressing you out or anything like that. So be in a nice, comfortable setting, have someone there who can, kind of be a lifeline for you if you need it. But I like to do it alone. My wife also likes to do it alone. She just had a very profound trip this past Friday. That seeing the change in her, even just from this past Friday, and how she's been operating as a human being has been amazing. And so it's something that just continues to pay dividends in our lives when we give ourselves that, usually one night every 3 months or so, where we take a high dose, 4 grams, 4 grams or more, uh, and really just shut out the world. Put on, for me, noise canceling headphones and an eye mask, and lay in my bed. And it usually turns into like an hour, 2 hours of me just like kind of zoning out in my mind and going through whatever thoughts I need to process. And then like 2 hours of me stretching and feeling into my body and really like connecting with my body from a primal sense. It's really amazing.
You just, yeah. You described your journey as rebuilding the connection between body, mind, and spirit. After that experience, what were the practical changes you made in your daily life that signaled this wasn't just a cool trip, but a real
Oh, dude,
pivot?
I mean, it's endless, and the whole like the whole like last 2, 3 chapters of my book describe all of the changes that I underwent, because it's one of those things that like I went through this experience, and it was like so many things got unraveled in my mind, right? And on the final day of EDC, I sat in the car for an hour and I called my mom and I spoke with her. And I kind of shared with her that I was experimenting with mushrooms. And she, wondered if I was crazy, if I was turning into a drug addict, and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, no, mom, like, you don't understand. I hadn't told her about the Coke. She didn't really know that how big of a problem that and the drinking was for me. Um, and when I had the conversation with her, I was essentially like, listen, understand, I am eating vegetables now, which I'd never done my whole life. And if that doesn't tell you how big this change is for me, then I don't think you'll quite understand until you really start to see it and understand it for yourself. Um, but it was one of those things. I had that conversation with her and just explained all the positive changes that I'd been making up here. But then when I got back from EDC, it was okay. This is a total new life for me. I need to start in my environment and then work my way out, right? And so it started just as simple as like making my bed and doing the laundry and putting the clothes away when I'm done and flossing my teeth every night and, cleaning the apartment and doing the dishes and organizing and yada, yada, yada. And so it was like my space just looked completely different a month later. And then, my habits changed. I finally got my bike fixed that sat in my garage with a flat wheel for like 3 years. I finally got the wheel fixed and started riding it. And so I'd been up until that point a heavy power lifter, but was not a complete picture of health by any means, right? I was very stiff. I didn't do any cardio. And so I started riding my bike. I started doing yoga. I actually took a week off from lifting, which was the first and only time, even still since then, that I've taken a week off from lifting. And so it was just like little change, little change, little change, just exploring what changes I was open to make, right? I went a week without caffeine, decided that that wasn't worth it, and started drinking my coffee again. Uh,
They have the mushroom
they
coffees
do,
now.
which I'm not a big fan of. Like, I honestly, I just like, I need to have that higher amount of caffeine. I don't know. It gets me going, especially with all the working out that I do. It really helps to enhance that. But, um, yeah, but, it was just like change after change after change. And, it has continued over the course of the 3 years since that experience, from being those little changes that first started until a year after that when I started to get into, fitness competitions and things of that nature, and, you know, the book and audiobook and my relationship and with my wife and so on and so forth. And it's just been a beautiful ride of amazing things that have come since this pivotal turning point in my life.
No, that's awesome. And speaking of your book, with your mindset is your reality is both your mantra and your book title. When you look back at your old mindset, What were the core beliefs or stories you had to dismantle?
Um, the biggest one was that everybody is in the world for themselves, because I was in the world for myself. I thought I was the only person that mattered, and I operated like it. I didn't do anything that wasn't serving me in some type of way. And to flip that and say, no, people are generally good, and people want to be good people to other people. And really, the heart of life comes down to how good of a person can you be to other people, because nobody gets anywhere in life without support and without giving support. So, that was really the key fundamental thing that changed, is that I stopped seeing the world as evil and against me, and saw myself as a collaborative piece of what makes everybody else around me better, and started operating like it.
You're absolutely right. You run into those people who have that lone wolf mentality, and it always ends up never serving them. I could do this by myself until you need somebody, and that's a huge wake up call. For a lot of people. Now, you didn't just get sober. You became a hybrid athlete, 100-mile ultra marathon, strongman, obstacle races. Why was pushing your body that hard such an important part of your psychological
Mm.
healing?
I don't know if it's really been a big part of the psychological healing, as much as it has just really given me an outlet and a place to push my boundaries with something that I really care about. I'd been somebody who is into health and fitness my whole life. I got my start really in sixth grade, working out on my own, thanks to a awesome PE teacher that let me retest for the Presidential Fitness Award. And so I you know, grinded out push-ups and sit-ups and running and everything like that. And it really sparked my love for it. And so, that kind of snowballed through high school and college, and really took off in college with a big time, attention towards powerlifting and uh, bodybuilding to an extent, but I drank too much to, ever go on stage or anything like that. And so it was something that had always been a part of my life, but because of my other habits, was never like I just never took it seriously enough. And so when it came to be a year after my psilocybin experience, I really reached a point where I'm like, okay, well, I took this step back from lifting because my body was feeling tight. I've been doing a bunch of yoga, I've been biking, my body feels good, but I feel unfulfilled. Feel like I really need to go for something to challenge myself, to reawaken that competitor in me that had existed when I was, when I was a pitcher and I was staring down a batter and fucking striking him out and yelling and walking off the mound and slamming the ball down and all that stuff. And so I just really wanted to awaken that back up, and I had wanted to do a Spartan race for the longest time. It's there's a Spartan race that's about 2 hours away from me. November 14th, I say, well, I want to sign up for this race, but I have not run in 11 and a half years. Let me throw on my running shoes. And so I went for a 3 mile run that day. It exhausted me getting to 3 miles, but I proved to myself that I could go out and run 3 miles. And so I laid in bed and I said, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to go for a run. And if I can run for an hour straight, I'm going to sign up for the half marathon Spartan race. And as I laid in bed thinking about that, I said, you know what? No, fuck this. I'm not giving myself an out. So I rolled out of bed and I signed up for the half marathon. It was, 2 weeks to go before the race. I'd never run more than probably like 5 miles, and that was 12 years before. And so, having never done a distance like that, I went out the next day. I ran that hour. I did 7 miles in an hour. And so it was awesome to prove to myself that I could do that. I showed up at the half marathon Spartan the next week, and pushed myself through more discomfort than I had, if not ever, in years and years and years. Yeah, let's say ever. Um, fucking cramps and exhaustion, and just realizing how out of shape I was comparative to where I wanted to be. But I finished in the top 5% of the open division, which kind of made me say, okay, well, if I can just go out and do this, having not run in 11 and a half years, what happens if I actually try? And so I
Very
had
true.
I had what would be kind of my second to last drink 3 days before that Spartan race, and then would have my last drink a month after it, which the 2 years will be in 4 days. So that's a fun little anniversary. Uh, Thank you, Oscar.
Congratulations.
And I mean, really, it's not the not drinking that's the congratulations. It's everything that has come in my life since then, right? Because I did that first Spartan race. It lit that fire and showed me, like, no, dude, like, you really want to take your health seriously. You want to push yourself. You're done with the excuses of saying, I could be an elite athlete if I didn't drink. I could be an elite athlete, but like, I just like going out too much. No, you want to fucking prove it? Fucking prove it, dude. And I mean, it's taken me down such a crazy route over the last 2 years and so much fun. Like you said in the question, there's a million different things that I do. Obviously the Spartan races, but I got into strongman last year. I won an award actually at the first strongman competition that I did. I showed up as the lightest competitor in the field, and the final event involved picking up a 215-pound stone, which was 45 pounds more than I weighed. The other competitors in my sub 225 weight class were much more favorably sized to pick up this stone. So the final event, it's, you pick up the stone, your opponent picks up the stone, puts it over until one of you drops, right? And so the first guy gets up, he can't pick up the stone, so he's out. So I step in against the next dude, and I had done 215 pounds once in practice. And I told myself, it's the last event of the day. I'm exhausted. If I can pick this up once, I'll be happy. I did that shit 15 times. Yeah.
Wow.
Rocking the music, bouncing up and down, getting the crowd into it, just like
Wow.
having the most fun and like impressing everyone there.
That's
Yeah, the
insane.
professional strongmen that were the judges of the competition unanimously voted for me to win the Spirit of Strength award for that. So it was a really proud moment. And, I ran a marathon a week after that. Uh, did another strongman competition last year or earlier this year. Well, fuck, last year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's like you're your own overachiever. That's amazing. No, that's amazing. I'm trying to get into. I have a couple of friends who do the Vermont
Oh
the
yeah.
Spartan races, and they're getting me like, look, Oscar, you got to do it. You got to do it. Because with the thing I mentioned where we had the release and everything like that, it was me and two other guys, and I consider them my brothers now. And Kevin, he did it, and he did the Spartan race. He did a because they have the varying degrees. If people don't know, they have varying degrees of Spartan races that you can do with obstacles and everything else. He chose one and he did it, and they're like, it's your turn, man. It's your turn. He's like, oh, you
You've
got to
been
do it.
chosen,
Got to
Oscar.
do it. It's Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful up there, and I've seen them, with the pictures and everything like that, and I'm like, that's I have to do the same thing. I got to get off my ass and be like, stop with the fucking excuses and treat your body right. And I really want to have that experience. So I did one, like my wife did one a couple of years ago. I don't know if you've heard of it, the
Okay.
mozzarella.
No, it might be, just up that way, but regardless.
It's the same thing. I forgot where it was. I don't know if it was in Jersey or like upstate from where we're at. It's the same thing. You do the obstacle courses, and you're running through. Yeah, there's a shit ton of mud. You're running. So I was alongside her doing it, and they would, people for encouragement. And then she's like, they're not telling you to get off of the course. Just do the shit with me. I'm like, all right, fuck it. So did that, and that's when I was about maybe 50
No.
pounds lighter or something like that. And it was a good experience. And I'm like, I always thought back on that, and I'm like, shit, man. She's like, yeah, remember when we did that? I'm like, yeah, maybe we should try it again. We'll work something out. But I'm like, we've been changing a lot. Yeah, exactly. We've been changing a lot, and it's like I'm getting the itch.
It's you start with one small step, like I obviously put a lot of work into my health over the years, so like I could just go out and run 3 miles without having done it in 12 years, right? I don't expect anybody else out there that's listening to just randomly be able to do that, but you can start with a step, right? You can start with a half mile. You can start with a fucking 100-meter jog down the street, whatever it is, right? Whatever is going to push that boundary for you. Because that's the beautiful thing with it, right? Is that you prove yourself that you can do that. And you start to ask yourself, okay, well, I did that and I'm still here to tell the tale. What more am I capable of? And who knows, eventually you might be running 100 miles, man.
Yeah, I want to see how deep I can take this. And then now with you, when you coach clients now, how do you help them distinguish between using intense experiences, psychedelic races, extreme challenges as a doorway to growth versus just another form of escape?
uh, well, I mean, uh, the biggest thing that I talk to my clients about is setting goals, right? I mean, it all comes down to what your goals are for yourself. So much of the time, in a personal training standpoint, um, people want to focus on the scale, and that's fine. It's understandable. I try to urge people for more, fitness based goals. Like I went out and I ran a mile in under 10 minutes, right? I benched my body weight, things like that. They're something that you can work towards gradually, and you can kind of see the the stages along the way that'll help you get there. And I love that because you get to cheer them on and work with them and everything like that. And if it's just a number on the scale that's so pliable that it's okay, yeah, you got to your goal weight, and now what, right? And it lacks kind of that build on, right? Because if you get to your goal weight, now what? What motivation do you have? But if you set a number that you're trying to get to, you get that, and it's okay. Do you want to continue to try to improve at that number, or maybe try a different test, right? And so it's just a constant reworking of what your goals are. Just like for me when it comes to races, and initially my goal was, okay, go out and do a half marathon Spartan, and this was something that was like so far and beyond anything that I would have dreamed that I was capable of. Even a month before, I wouldn't have signed up for a half marathon. My friends, I was like asking a couple of friends if they wanted to do it with me, and they said yes. I was like, okay, cool. I want to do a 5K, maybe a 10K if I'm feeling frisky. And they're like, if I'm gonna go do it, like might as well do the half marathon. And I'm like, I can't do that. And you do, right? I did. And so it just becomes a question of like, what is that next goal? And so, just proving to yourself that you can do that. And eventually 2 years later, 3 weeks ago, my wife and I went out there and we did that same half marathon Spartan, and I finished in an hour and 19 minutes faster than I did the first year that I did it. And so it just becomes something that goes from an intense struggle to still a struggle, right? It's not easy doing that, but something that I know that I can do without question, and that I know that I'm going to finish, and a very high standing when it comes to that kind of stuff. It just builds an intense amount of confidence that things that used to be extremely challenging for you are no longer.
And it's great to set the example for others who I'm sure they have on the back of their mind, like, man, I can't do this. I can't, you know, function at his level. But it's like, dude, you can
Hmm.
get there.
You can. I didn't start running until 2 years ago, right? Like that's the craziest thing to me, and to the people in my life that see me doing these incredible things, that when I share that with them, they're like, oh fuck, okay, what excuse do I have, right? It's just a matter of getting started.
Absolutely. Very, very true words. Now, you've lost friendships, changed your environment, and even shifted to how you date and relate as you've grown, leading to your marriage. Now, what has been the hardest relational cost of becoming this newer version of yourself?
uh there hasn't been a hardest relational cost, at least as it currently stands. When I first had my experience, it was difficult because I changed who I was as a person, and so the type of people that I valued in my life changed drastically, which meant that a lot of the people that were in my life at that point, I recognized they weren't providing the type of value that, I wanted the people in my life to provide. And so it was a breakaway on my behalf from those people, and so I lost a bunch of friends. I lost people that were close to me. I mean, we're still on good terms. If I called up any of them, I'm sure that they would not answer and then call me back 2 days later and we'd have a nice conversation. But we're all on good terms. But it's just one of those things that you just recognize that you're going in a different path than those people are going to be. It sucked for a while, really feeling like I didn't have many people in my corner, that I was going into this new life of mine without, much support or confidence that it was going to turn out for anything. But once I really defined who I was for myself and started to do the things that mattered to me, the right people started to fall into my life. And so the community that I've built here in St. Petersburg has just been so incredible, so supporting. I met my wife 16 months ago, and we are married when we met 16 months ago. So, just an amazing thing.
You had to convince her, or was she just as curious as you to try psychedelics to maybe see what walls she can break down as well, or just say, you know what, my man's trying this. I want to be on the same page as him. Like, what were her views on it to be like, okay, was there any convincing, or walk
Yeah.
us
Well,
through
so
that?
um, she she grew up kind of homeless, and not kind of homeless, actually homeless, and found strength in the church when she was a teen. And so it was, yeah, a Bible thumper, like, would be the type to say, "Hey, don't curse around me. You're gonna go to hell," and like, I'm gonna save you from going to hell," and like, total fucking Bible thumper. But as she grew up, she started to, recognize that that wasn't the way that she wanted to live her life, and started to experiment with psychedelics of her own in her early 30s. She's 38 right now. And so she had her own experiences with them prior to us meeting, and has had a long history of very positive experiences with them uh, in that time. So it was something where, when we met, me sharing my story with her, I was used to very questioning eyes when I would tell people about my experience, but she was very open and curious, and supportive of it right from the start. So it was an immediate connection and spark that we both felt, and it was amazing to find each other. It was like we were placed in each other's lives at the exact right moment. And man, I can tell you just how exact right that moment was. Uh, yeah.
Good.
So 2.5 weeks after we met, Hurricane Helene hit Tampa Bay, and it flooded her house 2.5 weeks after we met. And so she did not have a place to live, and she hasn't left.
Mushrooms and hurricanes is like, you got like a wild
Yeah,
story right
man.
there.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome. That's great. And now, for someone listening who sees themselves in your numbing and drifting phase but isn't ready or legally able to try psychedelics, what's one mindset challenge you invite them to do prior to hopefully getting on that
Um,
path?
I would say find what you want to make a change in your life, and find content online that speaks to it, right? Find content either online or in audiobooks, in physical books. Start to pour yourself into consuming material that is down the path that you want to go down. Because, I'll tell anybody that my transformation didn't happen in a vacuum, right? It's not, oh, I ate mushrooms and my life is better. No, there was intentionality all along the way to try to find a better way for myself. and I was unable to until I found mushrooms. And then it was like everything clicked, right? But I was trying to do all these things, but was just unsuccessful in actually making the changes that I wanted to.
Hi, John, you there?
So I think people can do that without psilocybin, of course. But if you start to just go down that road and start to consume the material that is in line with the type of changes that you want to make for yourself, you can start to sow those seeds and, maybe take hold of your transformation without psilocybin. Maybe, set the groundwork for when you do try it or something, else, transcendental meditation or, whatever it is, that those things do take hold.
Good.
You there, Oscar?
Welcome back. Do you remember where you last left off?
I don't know what you last heard.
Um, it's okay. We can. That's all good. Let's just move on to the next question. Now, how do you personally check in with yourself now that? Let me restart. How do you personally check in with yourself now to make sure you drive for more? Is it coming from a healthy place and not just a new addiction in a nicer outfit?
You're talking about my relationship with psilocybin.
That and your new route to fitness and health and your workout and everything. A lot of people normally switch one addiction for another, even though one might be a little bit better than the other. So, I mean, yeah, what is how do you check in with yourself to say, you know what, this is a more healthier way? Like, of
Yeah.
course, can't get healthy with Coke or anything like that, but just in case you're not going down a different type of rabbit hole, how do you kind of self-reflect and say know that you're on the right path?
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to know that I'm on the right path just with the things that I do and the people that I have in my life, the relationships that I have, the love that I have in my life, the love between, myself and my wife and my friends and just so many incredible people that you know to question or to think that anything that I'm doing would be bad or looked down upon or wrong or whatever. Like, the fact that psilocybin is a Schedule 1 drug currently is just the biggest joke in the world. And I aim to live my life in a way that proves that and helps to change the thought of what psilocybin is on a global scale. And so, that's really my goal. I don't care if anybody wants to label it as anything because I know that the way that I live my life right now compared to who I was 3 years ago is it's just such a fucking joke how different my life is and the things that I'm able to do. Uh, I don't know. I just don't need to justify it anymore.
No, I mean, and look, it's a fair point because it rolls into my next question because where you were in the past, and in not such a good place, people are there now. Now, if so, the question is basically, what would you say to yourself then? So, if you had the time, or if you had that time to speak with that version of you, and you're
Mhm.
basically talking to that version of you and other individuals who are watching this right now, so if you had time with that version of who you thought weekends of coke, booze, porn were just normal, what would you want him to know? What would you want him to know that's on the other side of discomfort to getting better?
Yeah. Uh, you know, that's an interesting question. And, people have asked me like a number of times if you could go back and talk to your old self, what would you say? And it wouldn't have mattered because that old self wouldn't have listened to anybody. I thought that I had everything figured out and that the only opinion that mattered was mine. And I now think that the only opinion that matters is mine in a different way, if that makes sense. It
It
goes
does.
from being narcissistic to, uh, not caring what, people tell you not to do with your life because you know what you're doing and I know that I'm doing the right thing, and so maybe that part of me quite hasn't quite changed, but I couldn't have told myself anything, right? Or there were all lessons that I needed to learn from myself, and it all happened exactly as it needed to for me to get the answers that I needed so freaking badly. But if you had asked me at that point, like, hey, if you even asked me, do you think you have depression? I would have said no. But I was shown through the experience that I did, and that I did have. Well, I mean, I was diagnosed with anxiety and I was prescribed SSRIs, but I didn't like understand what anxiety was. I just thought it was something that I had that these pills are going to make go away. I didn't like really understand what was going on in my brain when I was experiencing anxiety. And with the experience with psilocybin, it allowed me to understand what anxiety and depression actually are and what, addiction truly is. And addiction truly is, making the same choice over and over and over again, despite the negative consequences. And when people ask me about that now, like, oh, you use mushrooms, yeah, you eat them a few times a week, like microdosing. Do you think that's an addiction? No, because there aren't negative consequences, at least nothing that's come up for me in the last 3 years, right? And so if I could point to anything and say, hey, yeah, that's a negative side effect that's come along with it. I mean, the only thing is that it increased estrogen a little bit, so I need to make sure that I control my estrogen levels. I mean, fuck, right? My sleep's great, my mood's great. I ate a gram of mushrooms earlier today and I ran 20 miles, so
Well, you should have told me. I would have taken some of my wife took the chocolates to go hang out with some friends. And it's kind of true, and I completely understand what you're saying, and yes, because I was in the same boat, knowing that I had to be ready to make these changes. To tell me before, I would have like, fuck you, I'm not doing shit. Like, what are you talking about? I'm right. I know what I'm doing. I'm in my own head. But that what was tripping me up. And what I what I achen into is that when I started this podcast through my reasons, it put me in a space in a room with people that unbeknownst to me was beginning my journey to heal, hearing the things that they're saying and getting curious about, like, well, maybe it is possible, hearing their stories. That's one of the reasons why I jumped on the chance to do this. I thought we were going to do this down the line. Weeks later, you're like, no, let's fucking go, let's do this. And with this, it's actually the day of the January 1st, January 1st. And
yeah.
you're my first interview in the new year. And I jumped at it only because the way I see it, even though you may not have a pivotal role in individuals' lives. To one, yes, you could change somebody immediately and they say, fucking, I'm gonna do this. Pick up some weights, go run, just or take a long walk and just grow on that. Other people like, nah, that's cool, and not do anything. But then it's a seed. It's a
Mhm.
seed that gets stuck and it's gonna grow and it's gonna be like, no, fuck. I'm like, all right, well, that seed is waiting for you guys to be ready. And you're gonna be ready one of these days. So maneuver correctly, and just these are cautionary tales that didn't end the way people think they should. And those are the stories I love putting out there. So that's the one reason I jumped on it, because I read what was going on. I'm like, oh, fuck, hell yeah. No, I got to tell the story. So I think you putting those seeds out there are fucking amazing. Now, looking ahead, what impact do you hope your mindset is your reality and Get Psych Fitness will have on how people think about mental health, addiction, and their own capacity to change?
Dude, well, hey, you kind of answered the question for me right there, right? With people understanding their own capacity to change, and that's really what it comes down to, right? It's not a mushrooms thing. It's not, a me thing. It's I'm doing this to demonstrate what type of change is possible, and I want other people to look at it and say, "Holy shit, if he can do that, what can I do?" I gave a speech, so I did the 100-mile race like a month and a half ago, close to 2 months ago now, man. Wow. And the night that, so I started the race on November 8th at 5 a.m. I finished the race on November 9th at 4 a.m. November 9th at 4 p.m., I was on stage talking about it. And I gave a speech, and in that speech, I, kind of lay out for people, a few different things. One, going from not running to doing 100 miles in under 24 hours, right? And that's a key thing too. It's not like I just slogged through this, but I came in sixth place out of 77. I was the first out of 27 first time 100 milers, right? So I crushed my performance. I way exceeded my own expectations for it, right? And if I can go out and do that, if I can, go do the Atlas Stone 15 times when I only thought I could do it once, right? If I can go out and do a Spartan despite having not run in 11 and a half years, what can you do, right? Can you make your bed and floss your teeth and do the laundry? Can you do those little things? Can you start a company? Can you fucking swim across Tampa Bay? Whatever it is, right? there are so many options that we have for us that don't come down to the physical sense. I've just been doing the physical my whole life, and so it's been a predisposition for me to follow that and to finally get serious about it and ask myself how high I can push. What are the things in your life, listener, or your life, Oscar, that you've told yourself, man, it would be really amazing to try that? Just go fucking try.
I think I see a TEDx talk in your future, man. I think you should really like that's one thing you should pursue and tell your story and how it's so changed your life, man. Because I think that's something that would be very awesome for you. You know,
I appreciate that.
and finally, where can listeners get your book, connect with you, or explore working with you if they're curious about rewriting their own story and using fitness and mindset work as a tool for transformation?
Yeah, man. So my book is on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. It's called Your Mindset is Your Reality. You can find me on Instagram at Johnny B, JohnnieBe. Get Psyched Fitness is also on there. Get underscore psyched underscore fitness. And you can find me on X at psilocybin fit. But Instagram, my primary account, Johnny B, is by far the best way to contact me.
All right, good. Johnny, John, Johnny Bags, whatever you want to go by. Thank you so much. Just a little ode to your older self, and I'm glad to meet the newer you, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for giving me your time. Thank you for telling me your story. Thank you for giving all of these inspirational, facets of yourself. It's an amazing thing, and just thank you.
I appreciate you, Oscar. Just a heads up. So my wife and I are trying to have our first child right now. Um, no good news yet, but I believe in manifestation, and I love Logan, and so I just ordered that, and so I'll look
Thank
forward
you.
to that with my kid when they're able to comprehend it.
Man, thank you very much. And if you're ever in the area, let me know. I'll sign it for you, or if you wanna, send it to me, I'll send it back to you. I mean, whatever you want to do. If you want me to autograph it, absolutely. I super appreciate that. You guys are gonna love it. It's just as much for adults as it is for kids. And watch when you read it, you're gonna be like, "Holy shit!" Like, yes, I know a couple of adults that need to read this. You know, and I
I love
really
it.
super appreciate it.
I love it. Oscar, it's been a
Thank you.
pleasure, man.
It's been a pleasure.
I'll talk to you
Thank you,
soon.
man.
All
I
right, all
will.
right.
No, well, the man. Thank you. That was
Thank you, Oscar. That was a wonderful and insightful episode. John's story reminds us that change doesn't usually arrive quietly. It shows up through moments that shake us awake. Healing isn't about being flawless. It's about choosing awareness over avoidance, growth over numbness. You don't have to hit rock bottom to change. You just have to be willing to look inward and take one honest step forward before you hear that thud on the floor, which is you actually hitting bottom. Usually it's literally. Wherever you are right now, know this. Growth is possible, clarity comes with courage, strength with vulnerability, and your next chapter can start anytime, anywhere. Adelante, siempre, por tu mente. Forward, always, for your mind. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast.
Meet Logan, the strong-minded little elephant who learns that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about believing in yourself even when you're scared. In this beautifully illustrated story, friends follow Logan through a colorful jungle as he learns to calm his worries, take deep breaths, and remind himself I am strong. I am safe. I can do this. It's a story that helps kids, and maybe a few grown-ups too, find courage, mindfulness, and strength in their hearts. Logan, the Strong-Minded Little Elephant, by me, Oscar Luna. Available now at all major retailers and my publisher's bookstore, Milton and Hugo. Because it's up to every parent to show that their child deserves to know that strength starts from within.